What do you want? What? Wanton? That's noodles, mate. It's not a food shop. It's a guitar lesson factory. Oh, the Wanton Song. Makes a lot of sense now. You want me to show you how to play it? It's going to cost you a lot more than noodles, let me tell you that. Only joking. It's free. Have fun. Apparently the Wanton Song had the working title Desire, which is one way of announcing the mood of the piece, both in terms of lyrics and music. And what better way to express this mood musically than with a nice, juicy, fat, hard rock riff. Jimmy Page basically composed it around two notes, a low G and a high G. The rhythm pattern is similar to the Immigrant Song, but Page ends with a descent in fifths, which sets it apart. He plays his Les Paul number 1 and probably into his distorted Marshall 1959 SLP and Marshall 1982 combo. Well, I haven't got any of them, so we'll have to make do with a plug-in and my 98 standard. Just to let you know that we are in standard tuning for this lesson, and if you want the tab to go along with it, you can grab that on my Patreon. And if you do end up liking this video, please smash the like button, hit subscribe and the bell next to it, and leave me a fat whopping comment down below, and I promise I'll get back to you. Alright, let's get to it. So it opens with that really cool main riff. It's just octaves on the note G. I like to put my index finger on the 3rd fret of the E and my pinky on the 5th fret of the D. And you're going to strike each note twice. You're going to repeat that 4 times in total, okay? Now, if you want to pick it super precisely, you can do. Good string skipping exercise. If you want to kind of put a little bit more aggression into it and be a little bit more free with the picking hand, then I suggest you mute the A string and the G string with the underside of the index and the pinky. And then you can pick a little bit more freely with the picking hand, and you add that kind of muted string percussive element to the riff. If you've watched some of my other Zeppelin lessons, you will have seen me talk about that kind of thing before, keeping the picking hand relaxed but muting the surrounding notes to keep you playing tidy. It's a common thing that he likes to do. Now, after you've repeated the G octaves 4 times, we've got these 2 chords. It's basically the middle part of an F7, moving up a semitone to an F sharp 7. So that's your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the A, index finger on the 1st fret of the D, and 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the G. And then move it up a semitone. Now, if you want a slightly simpler chord that you can play there, if you don't like going to that one, you could just opt to play 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the A and index finger on the 2nd fret of the G. And you're just grabbing the perfect 5th and the major 3rd of that dominant 7 chord, as opposed to putting the minor 7 in there as well. And with the bass and the drums, like it's not hugely missed, but I definitely prefer it with the flat 7 in there. After 4 more repeats of that G octave riff, we've then got this. So we're going to start on the 3rd fret of the A string with the index finger and chromatically move up to the 5th fret, 2nd and 3rd fingers. Then hop over to the 3rd fret of the D string with the index finger and pull off to the open D. You could come back to the 5th fret of the A string. It's the same note, but I think pulling off to the open D allows us to jump to that octave or power chord at the 5th fret a little bit easier. So for the little descending octaves part, you're going to grab the 7th fret of the G with the pinky, and obviously the 5th fret of the A with the index finger, and you're going to pick up, down, high, low. Move down a fret, one more fret, and then move down all the way to the 1st fret, but turn it into a power chord. You can either use your 3rd finger or pinky across both, and you're going to pick the highest note and then strum the whole power chord. I actually had my pinky across the D and the G throughout the descending octaves there, so it's already prepped when I turn it into a power chord. After that, you're going back to the G octaves. So just to recap, it's 4 repeats of the G octave riff. Then you've got the F7 to F sharp 7. 4 repeats of the G octave riff again. And then this little riff. And you can cycle it around before moving on to the next section. So we're going to start this section by quickly shifting to an F minor 7, and we're just hitting the middle 4 notes. So that's going to be 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, and then index finger barring across the 1st fret of the D, G, B. Strum it once, and then strum it again before adding the pinky to the 3rd fret of the B string. Then we're going to change to a B diminished chord, so index finger and pinky can stay in the exact same place. 3rd finger is going to hop over to the 3rd fret of the D. 2nd finger now grabs the 2nd fret of the A, the note B. Strum the middle 4 strings again, and then move the pinky up a semitone. That higher part of the melody is just gradually stepping up. Then we're going to move up to a C minor 7. So index finger is barring across the 3rd fret from the A to the high E. 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the D, 2nd finger on the 4th fret of the B. Again, strum the middle strings. Strum again up to the B. And try and really accent that B string, because it's going to be the first of 3 notes in that melody that's stepping up. So after that 4, put the pinky on the 6 on the B, and then hit the 3rd fret of the high E. So remember, strum once, again, okay, and then make your way up to the 3rd fret of the high E. After that C minor 7, we're going to change to a C sharp diminished. So if you can remember the shape that we did from the B, we're just going to move that up 2 frets. It's quite easy to snap into from that C minor 7 because we're in the same area. Now, strum it exactly as we have been doing. And again, on that 2nd strum, accent the B, move the pinky up a semitone, and then hit the 3rd fret of the E again. And again, you're walking that higher melody up to that G note at the top. You can play that diminished chord and slide it up. I don't like all the other harmony that kind of comes with that. It sounds like 80s 8-bit game over. So I'd prefer to keep that diminished chord in place and then just pick out the melody on top of it. Altogether, you've got this. This section is a bit mad. isn't it? Let's be honest. But it's really cool. Loads of double stop, hammer-ons, pull-offs. It's kind of got that flanging solo sound from 10 Years Gone. And there's a really fiddly little kind of part in the middle, which I did my best to figure out because you can play it a bunch of different ways. So let's get into it. Oh, also a little tip for you. If you are practicing it or you're going to record it, I just flattened my B string ever so slightly because sometimes that major third before the hammer-on can be a little bit obnoxious. Even if you're perfectly in tune and you've got great intonation, just because of the nature of tuning on the guitar. I flattened my B string ever so slightly and it's just a little bit more in tune, a little bit more pleasant. And you don't notice it when you do that quick hammer-on pull-off semitone above. Anyway, here we go. It's 2 repeated sections. So I'm going to play the first one slowly, we'll learn it. Show you the second one slowly, we'll learn that. Then we'll do the solo. Here we go. So you're going to start by barring the index finger across the 5th fret of the G and the B, play both notes. Then you're going to hammer on and pull off the 2nd finger to the 6th fret of the B, major third to sus4, and then finish with the 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the D, like this. Then you've got the exact same thing again, but just kind of moved down a string, but some of the positions changed. So index finger bars across the 5th fret now of the D and the G. Our hammer on pull off is going to be the 7th fret of the D with the 3rd finger, making our way down to the 7th fret of the A with the 3rd finger. This time, after we've done that, we come straight back up to that double stop, and then we hit the 7th fret of the D. And just listen to me copy the track for the rhythm. Now you're going to move down 2 frets and just play the first part of that previous riff. And then we've got this funky back and forth thing. It's between the index finger across the 3rd fret of the D and the G, double stop, and 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the A. I start with 3 alternate picked mutes. So I go down, up, down. And on the up, I'm going to catch that double stop. After that double stop, I hit the 5th fret of the A on a downstroke, and then I come up and do a mute. Then I hit the double stop again, and then the 5th fret of the A again. So here's the second variation. The first part is exactly the same. The second part is exactly the same. It's just a little bit more sustained on that first double stop, so we don't have the extra 2 notes. And you finish on the A string on the 7th fret. Once you've done that, you're going to move down 2 frets and do the exact same thing again. That second variation, you could basically just say that each time the hammer on pull off pattern is exactly the same. And then we have this riff before it goes into another repeat. So this is what I've settled on. You're going to play the 4th and 5th frets of the A string with the 2nd and the 3rd finger. Then grab the 3rd fret of the G with the index. Then you're going to hit the 4, 5 again, and then move up to 7 on the A string. After that 7, I'm going to hit the 5th fret of the G now with the index finger. And then you're going to hit 6, 7 on the A string, and then that 5th fret of the G again. It's very Jimmy. It's kind of like that riff in the middle 8 of the Rain song, if you know the part I mean. Now, at the end of the 4th repeat, you can just kind of go. It's just a back and forth between the 3rd fret of the D and the G again, and that 5th fret of the A string. Now if you want there, you can dip your volume to nothing, grab that double stop on the 3rd fret of the D and the G, and then fade your volume back up. And go back into that main riff. I'm going to do the same thing here that I did in my 10 Years Gone lesson for the rhythm parts that go behind the solo. I'm just going to play them through for you once, and if you want a more detailed tab, you can grab that on my Patreon. So I've gone over the solo again, double checked a few things, changed a few things. I've not necessarily gone and looked at exactly where Jimmy might play it. I've just worked it out by ear where it makes sense to me. So if you want to play the notes elsewhere, do that and don't shout about it in the comments section. Okay, here's the first lick. So I start by sliding into the 12th fret of the G with the 3rd finger, and then hitting the 10th fret of the G with the index. Very quickly slide back to the 8th fret of the D with the index, and then jump down to the 8th fret of the A. Then hit the 10 on the A and hammer on very quickly from the 8th fret of the D to the 10. And you can give it some vibrato there. Here's lick 2. So we start with a 12th fret whole tone bend, release, and then a pull off back to the 10. And then hit the 12 again. And then we walk up. D string 10 12, G string 9 12. I think some people probably play the 10th fret there. Sounds fine, but I hear the 9 on the track. Next lick. So I start by bending the 12th fret of the G up a whole step with my 2nd finger. And then I grab the 11 on the B with my index and chromatically walk up to the 13. Kind of like the ocean. Bend that 13 up and down a whole step. Then we have this little back and forth pattern from the 10th fret of the G to the 12th fret of the D. And then we're going to hit the 12th fret of the G 4 times. You can alternate pick that and give it a little bit of vibrato. Next lick. It's quite simple here. We're going to bend the 13th fret of the B string up a whole step with the 3rd finger and then grab the 13 on the high E with the pinky. I then give that 13th fret bend another kind of push before letting it down, pulling off to the 11 with the index. And then I hit the 13 again on the B. Then we've got this cool little lick. So starting on that 13th fret of the B string with the 3rd finger, we're then going to go to 12 on the high E with the 2nd, and then 13 on the high E with the 3rd, making our way up the F major scale. Whole tone bend up and down twice. And then we have this very playful little major third slide back to a minor third. So that's going to be index finger on the 12th on the E, second finger on the 13th fret of the B, back and forth. And then slide that 12 down to the 10. And when you get there, third finger on the 12th fret of the B, back and forth. You do that twice and you finish on the 10th fret with the index. It kind of hurries along there when it does that major third to minor third slide. Now I've heard this next little bit played a bunch of different ways, but the more I listen to the track, the more I could just hear this constant galloping rhythm, so I've gone for this. It's pretty cool, it's quite tricky. Some of you will disagree, but I will disagree with you. And then you will disagree with me, and then I will disagree with you. But I'm on YouTube, so I'm immortal, so unfortunately I will win. So just agree with me. So we're going to bend that 13th fret of the B string up a whole step, whilst also catching the 13th fret of the E with the pinky. And you're going to try and add some continuous controlled vibrato throughout. You're going to hit it 5 times consecutively with that pattern before letting the 13th fret down. So once you let that 13th fret down, you're going to hit it 5 times. And I like to alternate my picking. And here's the last lick from the solo. So this last lick starts on the 13th fret of the B again. I know what you're thinking, why don't you just say 6 repeats at the end of the last one? Well, I think because of the accenting that this first note has, it makes more sense to divide the 2 licks where I did. The previous one ending with 5 repeats of that note of C, and then this one starting with a slightly heavier hit on the C, if you listen. Some wild vibrato. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll show you the lick and then it'll help you divide it up and count it properly. As I said, we're starting on the 13th fret of the B, second finger on the high E, fret 12, and then you're going to bend the 13th fret of the E, the note F, up twice. Then pre-bend release, back to the 12. And then we have a very quick back and forth between the 13th fret of the B and the 12th fret of the E. But when we come back to the 13th fret of the B, we're going to bend that up a whole step. Now, if you want to end the song, you'll be pleased to know that you already know how to do that. It is just the descending octaves that we did before, over and over again. And when you get down to the first fret, you can just sustain and hold it. And you're done. The Wanton Song is finished. If you enjoyed learning with me, smash the like button, subscribe, bell next to it. I'm trying to get through that quicker because those of you that have already done it probably think, shut up, mate. I won't shut up, okay? We know that. If you can't shut up, then consider just writing everything that you need to say in the comments below, and I will reply. And if you've had your wee little musical titties blown off, then consider grabbing the tab over on my Patreon, and I promise it will help you out. And if it doesn't, I will. Be warned. Now, I need to go, but I am running out of things to throw at you. Fortunately, I've just caught a glimpse of myself. I'll see you later.